They say blood is thicker than water, but they forget the rest of the proverb. The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. For 24 years, I lived in a house where my blood was treated like toxic waste, and my existence was tolerated only because I could do the chores my golden child sister deemed beneath her. Welcome to my domain, a 8 by 10-foot corner of a damp, unfinished basement, wedged between the water heater and the winter coats. This is where my parents, Richard and Susan, told me I belonged after I graduated top of my class in computer science from Stanford. While my older sister, Chloe, was given a beautiful, sunlit studio apartment in downtown San Francisco, fully funded by my parents' retirement savings, I was handed an old air mattress and a warning not to drive up the electric bill. Elena, stop wasting electricity on those stupid video games and get up here. The catering boxes aren't going to unpack themselves. Chloe's investors are arriving in 2 hours. I didn't bother correcting her. I wasn't playing video games. I was staring at a triple monitor setup, watching a compilation sequence finish its final run. On my screen, lines of luminous green code were organizing themselves at a speed that would make a supercomputer look like an abacus. This was Project Hephaestus, a revolutionary AI-driven neural coding framework. In layman's terms, it was software that could write software. Tell it what you wanted built, and it would engineer, test, and deploy a flawless, unhackable application in under 12 seconds. It was the holy grail of the tech industry, and it belonged entirely to me. I picked up my phone. The screen flickered to life, bypassing standard cellular networks to connect to a highly secure, decentralized satellite array. A single text message from Marcus, my chief of staff. Ma'am, the board has finalized the security protocols for the Silicon Valley Summit. The global live stream is locked. The venue is secure. 5,000 tech executives are confirmed. The world is waiting for the reveal of EV Alpha. EV Alpha, that was my ghost alias. To the world, EV Alpha was the mysterious, reclusive tech prodigy who had secretly founded Aegis Nexus, a $40 billion AI and defense conglomerate that held the modern digital world together. Nobody had ever seen my face, not the board directors, not the media, and certainly not my family. To the tech world, I was a god. To Richard and Susan Vance, I was the resident basement parasite. I didn't turn around. I kept my fingers flying across the mechanical keyboard, locking down the local repository. Chloe stepped into my space, smelling of expensive French perfume and unearned arrogance. She was wearing a $2,000 Chanel tweed dress, bought on our dad's credit card, of course. For the past 2 years, Chloe had run a boutique marketing agency that had done nothing but burn through $500,000 of family money. Now, her investors were threatening to pull out unless she showed them something revolutionary. What is this garbage? Still staring at green lines? Honestly, Elena, this is why you don't have a boyfriend. Or a real job. Look at this. Hephaestus Core? What even is that? A cheap knockoff app? Don't touch my desk, Chloe. And it's not an app. It's something you wouldn't understand if I spent a decade explaining it to you. Oh, please, you're a code monkey. You build things for people like me to actually sell. You have zero vision, Elena. That's why Dad says sending you to Stanford was the biggest financial mistake of his life. You're just background noise. The catering boxes are upstairs, right? I'll go handle them. Get out of my room. Happily, try to put on something that doesn't look like it came from a dumpster before my guests get here. You're embarrassing. I took a deep breath, letting the anger settle into a cold, hard knot in my chest. I grabbed my keys. I needed to get out of this house, even if just for 20 minutes to grab a coffee from the drive-thru down the street. I grabbed an external hardware drive from my desk, the one containing the encrypted local instance of the Hephaestus source code, and plugged it into the secondary server rig to run a final cloud mirror backup. The drive pulsed with a soft blue light, labeled clearly in laser-engraved text, Hephaestus Core, private property of Elena Vance. I walked upstairs, past my mother who didn't even look up from her iPad as she snapped, "Don't take the good car," and stepped out into the crisp evening air. That 20-minute coffee run was the biggest mistake of my family's lives, and the best thing that ever happened to mine. While I was gone, the house was quiet, but inside the basement, a shadow was moving. She hadn't gone upstairs to greet her investors. She had stayed behind, her mind racing. She was desperate. Her agency was bankrupt. Her investors had given her an ultimatum: bring a groundbreaking tech proprietary asset to the table tonight, or face a massive fraud lawsuit for mismanaging their capital. She had seen the glowing blue drive on my desk. She had heard the quiet confidence in my voice, and like the predator she was, she scented opportunity. Chloe didn't know how to code, but she knew how to use a file explorer. She saw the drive. She saw the automated interface showing a progress bar: compilation 100% complete. Project Hephaestus, ready for deployment. She pulled a high-capacity flash drive from her Chanel handbag. She plugged it into the secondary port. She copied the entire source code directory, every algorithm, every neural map, every database schema I had spent 4 years of sleepless nights perfecting. But she didn't stop there. Knowing that I would immediately call her out, knowing that I could prove it was mine if I had the original files, she opened the command terminal. She typed in a global wipe command she had likely Googled on her phone: delete all local directories, wipe master boot record. She watched the screens turn black. She unplugged her flash drive, grabbed my physical encryption key from the desk, and smirked. In her mind, she hadn't just stolen an asset, she had erased her competition. She had erased me. She ran upstairs just as my car pulled back into the driveway. She had no idea that she hadn't just stolen a piece of software. She had just signed the death warrant for her entire future. The rain started pouring the second I stepped out of the car. I carried the tray of coffees toward the front door, the cardboard soaking through. I felt a strange, tightening sensation in my chest, an instinct I had learned to trust after years of navigating the cutthroat waters of Silicon Valley from the shadows. Something was wrong. I walked past the dining room, holding the coffees. The house was alive with people. Chloe's investors, 3 wealthy older men in tailored suits, were nodding along as my sister laughed, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness. My parents stood beside her like proud court guards. Nobody looked at me. I was invisible, a ghost carrying refreshments. I walked past them and headed straight for the basement door. I needed to check the final server sync. The basement was pitch black. The familiar, rhythmic blinking of my server lights was gone. The soft ambient blue glow of the Hephaestus core drive vanished. My heart didn't race. It turned to ice. I walked over to my workstation. The triple monitor setup was completely blank, displaying a single cold line of system text. No boot device found. Hard disk wiped. I reached down to the desk surface. The physical encryption key, the titanium thumb drive containing my root digital signature, was missing from its magnetic dock. I looked at the dust pattern on the desk, a perfect rectangular outline where the Hephaestus core hardware drive had been sitting 20 minutes ago. I closed my eyes, took one slow, deliberate breath, and opened them. I didn't panic, because Chloe was an amateur. She thought she had destroyed my work. She didn't realize that the second she initiated the local wipe, my system triggered an automated, military-grade kill switch, instantly mirroring the true core files onto the isolated Aegis Nexus cloud network. She hadn't destroyed my invention. She had just stolen a trap. I didn't care about her investors. I didn't care about decorum. I strode straight into the dining room. A laughter died instantly as I stopped at the head of the table. Elena, what is the meaning of this? Can't you see we have guests? Take those coffees to the kitchen and change out of those wet clothes. You're dripping on the hardwood. Where is it, Chloe? Where is what, Elena? What are you talking about? You're acting crazy. My hardware drive. The titanium encryption key. You sneaked into the basement the moment I left. You copied my entire source code directory for Project Hephaestus, and you wiped my local servers. Give them back. Now. Oh my God. Elena, how could you say something so horrible in front of my investors? I knew you were jealous of my success, but this is a new low, even for you. Elena, that is enough. How dare you accuse your sister of stealing your little computer games? Chloe has been working day and night on her new proprietary AI software for months. Months? Mom, she doesn't even know what a proprietary asset is. Chloe, tell your investors sitting right there, what programming language is your software written in? What's the architecture? It's a revolutionary AI-driven framework. I don't have to explain my proprietary tech to a bitter tech school dropout who lives in our basement. Dad, make her stop. She's trying to ruin my life. You have been a dark cloud over this family since the day you graduated. You sit downstairs doing absolutely nothing, refusing to get a real job, wasting our electricity, while your sister is out there making something of herself. And now, on the night she secures her future, you come up here and try to claim her hard work as your own? Dad, look at her face. She's lying. I wrote every single line of that code. If she tries to present it at the Silicon Valley Summit, she is going to create a catastrophic legal. You're just mad because Chloe was invited to present at the Aegis Nexus Summit, and you weren't. You're a bitter, toxic person, Elena. You can't stand to see your sister shine. I've had enough. I'm done supporting a parasite who tries to sabotage her own family. Pack your things, Elena. You are leaving this house tonight. You're kicking me out, in the middle of a storm, because she stole from me? If you try to ruin Chloe's big moment with your delusions, you are no longer a part of this family. We don't harbor thieves and liars. Get out of my sight. I looked at my father. His face was twisted in disgust. I looked at my mother, who turned her back to me, comforting a smug, weeping Chloe. Chloe caught my eye from behind her tissue. She gave me a tiny, vicious, triumphant smile. She thought she had won. She thought she had stripped me of everything. I realized then that 24 years of trying to earn their love was a waste of breath. They didn't deserve my explanation. They didn't deserve my protection. Fine, have it your way. But remember this conversation, Dad. Remember it very clearly, because when the dust settles, don't you dare call me. I walked out into the pouring rain. I didn't look back at the house. I pulled out my secure phone, the screen instantly bypassing the storm's interference. I hit a single speed dial button. Ma'am, we've been tracking your GPS location. Your security detail is idling at the end of the block. Are you ready? Marcus, pick me up. And call the Aegis Nexus legal team. We have a security breach to orchestrate. Understood, boss. Welcome back to the real world. The moment the door of the armored Cadillac Escalade clicked shut, the illusion of Elena Vance, the useless basement parasite, died. I dropped my rain-soaked jacket onto the leather seat. Marcus, my chief of staff, handed me a warm, dry microfiber towel and a glowing slate tablet without saying a word. He knew better than to interrupt my silence when my eyes were this cold. Your vitals spiked back at the house, boss. Do we need to deploy a tactical asset recovery team? We can retrieve the physical drive from your sister's possession in under 6 minutes. No, Marcus. Let her keep it. If we take it back now, she'll just find another way to cheat, and my parents will blame me for her inevitable failure. I want her to hold on to that drive. I want her to guard it like it's her golden ticket to Chocolate Factory. And I assume you've already checked the cloud logs? The second she initiated the RM-RF global wipe on my local terminal, the Aegis Nexus cloud node quarantined her IP address. She didn't just steal the source code for Project Hephaestus. She downloaded a sandboxed, trackable copy, configured with a dormant biometric lock. I swiped through the tablet. Sure enough, the summit registration portal showed a last-minute corporate sponsor entry. Chloe Vance, founder and CEO of Vance Enterprise Tech. Her entry description read, unveiling a groundbreaking fully automated AI neural framework. She had literally copied and pasted my abstract text from the document I kept on my desk. Our compliance team flags this as a direct intellectual property violation against Aegis Nexus. Under standard protocol, we should blacklist her entry and send the FBI to her hotel room for corporate espionage. Override protocol, Marcus. Clear her application. In fact, instruct the event coordinators to upgrade her presentation slot. Remove the midday tech panel filler, and give Chloe the prime 30-minute slot on the main stage, right before the global keynote address. The main stage? Boss, that has an in-person audience of 5,000 tech executives, venture capitalists, and the international tech press. Not to mention the 20 million concurrent viewers on the global live stream. If my sister wants to perform on a grand stage, I am going to give her the biggest audience humanly possible. I want her to feel the absolute weight of the spotlight before the trap springs shut. We arrived at the penthouse headquarters of Aegis Nexus, overlooking the glittering skyline of San Jose. For the next 12 hours, while the rest of the world slept, I operated from the shadows of my glass-walled command center. While I was coordinating the deployment of a multi-billion-dollar global summit, my sister was staying at the luxurious Grand Hyatt down the street, paid for entirely by our parents' dwindling savings. Let's check in on them, shall we? Thanks to the tracking beacon embedded in the stolen code, my tablet could mirror the active webcam of Chloe's laptop. Mom, stop asking me if I want tea. I'm trying to memorize these stupid definitions. What the hell does asynchronous compiled telemetry even mean? If these investors ask me technical questions tomorrow, I need to sound like I know what I'm talking about. Oh, honey, don't stress your beautiful head over those little details. You're the visionary. The investors aren't buying the math. They're buying you. You look stunning in that new designer suit your father bought you. When you walk on that stage, you're going to prove to everyone that you're the true genius of this family. That's right, sweetheart. We always knew you were the one destined for greatness. Forget about Elena. She's probably sleeping in some cheap motel right now, realizing her little lies didn't work. Tomorrow, when you secure that $20 million funding round, we'll buy out that basement and turn it into your private home gym. I closed the remote feed and sipped my black coffee, looking out over the dark city. The arrogance was astounding. They had completely erased me from their minds, convinced that theft was just ambition, and that my life's work belonged to them by right of birth. They thought tomorrow was the day Chloe Vance would be crowned the Queen of Silicon Valley. They didn't realize that the stage they were stepping onto didn't belong to the tech world. It belonged to me. And tomorrow the curtain was going to rise on a horror story they would never survive. The Silicon Valley Summit was an absolute titan of an event. The SAP Center in San Jose had been completely transformed into a futuristic fortress of glass, steel, and neon blue light. 5,000 tech titans, venture capitalists, and journalists packed the tiers, their eyes glued to the towering 50-foot LED screens framing the main stage. Above it all, a massive banner displayed the logo of my empire, Aegis Nexus, alongside a stylized silhouette of the reclusive founder. The letters burned bright. Keynote address by EV Alpha. Do you know who I am? Look at my badge. I am a VIP presenter. I shouldn't be standing in line with these low-level tech bloggers. Move the barrier right now. That's right. My daughter is the main event before the keynote. If she's delayed, Aegis Nexus will hear from our legal counsel. I stood just 20 feet away in a restricted VIP corridor, shielded from the public eye by a tinted, one-way glass partition. I was wearing an immaculate, tailor-made charcoal designer suit with subtle silver accents, the uniform of a true executive. My hair was pulled back sharply. Beside me, Marcus held a secure comms radio. Through the glass, I watched my family. Richard and Susan were practically bursting with unearned pride, filming everything on their phones. Chloe was wearing her expensive Chanel suit, her face caked in makeup, her fingers tightly clutching the stolen titanium Hephaestus core drive like a talisman. They just cleared the secondary security checkpoint, boss. Should I have the floor managers escort them to the front row? Yes. Put them right in the center of the VIP trench, right where the main broadcast cameras have a perfect, unobstructed angle of their faces. I don't want a single expression missed. I stepped out of the VIP enclosure to walk toward the backstage green room. As fate, or the calculated security routing would have it, our paths crossed in the main corridor. Chloe froze when she saw me. Her eyes raked over my flawless suit, and for a split second, a flash of pure panic crossed her face. But her arrogance quickly overrode her common sense. Oh my God, look who snuck in. Mom, Dad, look. Elena actually found a way to crawl out of her hole. Elena, how did you get past the gates? Did you steal a pass? Don't you dare cause a scene here and ruin your sister's career. I warned you, Elena. If you're here to peddle your delusional lies about Chloe's tech, I will personally have security throw you out on the street. Look at you, wearing a knockoff suit, trying to look important. You're pathetic. I'm not here to cause a scene, Dad. I'm just taking a walk. Chloe, you look tense. Make sure you project your voice up there. The global live stream just hit 22 million concurrent viewers. It would be a shame if you choked. Choke? On your silly little college project? Please. I'm about to close a $20 million funding round with the code I engineered. Watch me from the nosebleed seats, Elena. Watch a real winner take what's hers. I'll be watching very closely. Good luck, Chloe. You're going to need it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Aegis Nexus main stage. Please welcome our next independent tech presenter representing Vance Enterprise Tech, Chloe Vance. I walked into the backstage production booth, standing behind the lead broadcast director. On the giant screens, Chloe strode out to the center of the stage. She looked small against the massive scale of the arena, but her smile was blinding. In the front row, Richard and Susan were standing up, cheering frantically like teenagers at a rock concert. Hello, Silicon Valley. Today the tech industry changes forever. For decades, software engineering has been limited by human constraints. But my company, Vance Enterprise Tech, has shattered that ceiling. I proudly introduce Project Hephaestus. The crowd of tech executives collectively gasped. The diagrams on the screen were beautiful, because they were mine. For the first 10 minutes, Chloe gave a flawless, highly polished marketing speech. She used all the buzzwords her investors wanted to hear, claiming she had spent 4 years in isolation designing the algorithm. In the VIP section, her investors were already nodding, pulling out contracts, ready to sign the checks. But I know what you're thinking. Anyone can make a fancy presentation. You want to see it work. You want to see the live telemetry. Well, I have the master hardware core right here. Let's initiate a live, unscripted compile sequence. Computer, execute Hephaestus core framework. Chloe confidently plugged the stolen titanium drive into the main stage terminal pod. She pressed the massive glowing virtual button on her presentation screen. She smiled at the audience, waiting for the automated praise. She had no idea that the terminal wasn't connecting to a local server. It was connecting directly to my master network, and the trap was officially sprung. Arrogance makes people blind. It makes them forget that a house built on stolen foundations will collapse at the first sign of a storm. On stage, Chloe's smile froze. Her presentation slides vanished, replaced by a massive, pulsing red warning graphic that covered the entire 50-foot screen. The text was large enough for all 5,000 people in the arena to read clearly. Critical security breach detected. Unauthorized data extraction and system piracy. It looks like we have a minor technical glitch with the arena server. If the tech crew could just reset the display, we can continue the live compilation. In the VIP front row, Richard and Susan's faces drained of all color. Chloe frantically began pounding on her presentation clicker, but the device was completely dead. Then, A cold, robotic system voice boomed through the stadium's multi-million-dollar sound system. The device connected to Terminal Pod 4 contains stolen military-grade intellectual property belonging to Aegis Nexus. System compilation halted. Initializing biometric identification protocol. The audience began whispering, a low, buzzing roar of confusion and scandal rippling through the tech executives and journalists. Cameras flashed rapidly. Chloe's primary investors stood up, their faces twisted in absolute fury, staring at the screen. Ladies and gentlemen, to address this critical security protocol and deliver the final global address, please welcome the founder and CEO of Aegis Nexus, EV Alpha. I didn't rush. I walked with the slow, unshakable confidence of a monarch entering her own courtroom. The harsh white spotlights hit my charcoal designer suit, reflecting off the silver accents. I held a sleek, wireless microphone in my right hand. As I walked down the center ramp toward the stage, the main broadcast cameras panned directly to my face, projecting my image onto the massive screens above. I looked directly into the front row. My mother, Susan, was gripping her chest, her eyes wide, staring at the screen, then at me as if she were looking at a ghost. My father, Richard, had stumbled backward against his seat, his mouth hanging open, entirely speechless. And Chloe looked like she had just been handed a death sentence. She was trembling so violently she could barely stand, her hands shaking as she stared at me, walking right up to her pod. "Hello, Chloe. You told me to watch you from the nosebleed seats, but as the owner of this stadium, I preferred a much closer view." "Elena? How are you? This is a mistake. This is a joke. You're a basement. You stood at my family's dinner table last night and called me a parasite. You told your investors you spent 4 years in isolation designing Project Hephaestus. But you forgot one crucial detail about my silly little college project when you dragged it off my workstation. The Hephaestus core is programmed with a hardware-level kill switch. It doesn't run on standard execution commands. It requires the biometric signature of its true creator to compile." I stepped past my frozen sister and placed my right thumb onto the terminal pod's glass surface. A sleek laser line swept across my skin. Biometric scan complete. Identity verified. Elena Vance, founder, CEO, chief architect. Welcome back, EV Alpha. The 50-foot screen lit up, instantly displaying my global patent certificates, the historical timestamps of every line of code written over the last 4 years, and a log showing the exact minute Chloe's IP address illegally extracted the file from my home network. I turned back to the audience, ignoring my sister, who had sunk to her knees on the stage floor, crying hysterically. The world has been waiting to see what Project Hephaestus can do. Now that the system is properly authorized, let me show you what happens to people who try to steal from Aegis Nexus. A predator is only brave until it realizes it has stumbled directly into the hunter's den. As the digital evidence of the patent theft pulsed on the 50-foot screens, 6 burly Aegis Nexus security personnel, flanked by 3 plainclothes federal marshals, strode onto the main stage. They didn't hesitate. They walked right past me and surrounded my sister, who was huddled on the floor like a broken doll. "Chloe Vance, you are under arrest for federal intellectual property theft, corporate espionage, and illegal data extraction involving proprietary military-grade defense software. Stand up and put your hands behind your back." "No, get off me. Elena, tell them it's a mistake. Mom, Dad, help me. She's doing this to me. She's setting me up." The audience didn't feel sorry for her. The tech executives in the crowd were watching with cold, professional detachment. In this industry, a thief is lower than dirt. I watched her go without a single flicker of pity. I turned back to the audience, delivered a flawless 5-minute closing statement about the future of Aegis Nexus, and exited the stage to a standing ovation that shook the stadium walls. Elena, wait, stop, let us through." "It's okay, Marcus, let them in." My parents burst into my private green room. It was pathetic. The fire, the arrogance, the righteous fury they had hurled at me last night at the dinner table, completely gone. Susan's face was smeared with mascara, her hands shaking violently. Richard looked aged by 10 years, his chest heaving under his suit. Oh, Elena, baby, thank goodness. They arrested Chloe. You have to tell those police officers to drop the charges. They're saying she faces 20 years in prison. Explain to them that it was just a big family misunderstanding. Yes, exactly. We always knew you were a genius, Elena. We were just testing you last night. We had to push you so you would show your true potential. Look at you, the CEO of Aegis Nexus, my beautiful, brilliant daughter. We are so proud of you. I stood behind my sleek glass desk, looking at them. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel vengeful. I just felt an overwhelming sense of profound disgust. Proud? You didn't even know my company's name until an announcer yelled it 20 minutes ago. Elena, please, we're your family. We raised you. We gave you a roof over your head. You can't let your sister rot in a federal cell. It will ruin our family name. The investors are suing us for fraud. They're freezing our accounts. The family name? You threw me out into a rainstorm last night, Dad. You called me a parasite and a thief. You told me I was no longer a part of this family. We didn't mean it, sweetheart. We were just confused. Chloe manipulated us. Please, Elena, you're a billionaire. You can pay off her investors. You can save our house. Save your house? That's funny. Marcus, what happened to the mortgage on their San Jose property this morning? Aegis Nexus Holdings bought out the primary debt from the bank at 9 o'clock this morning, boss. Technically, Vance Enterprise Tech defaulted on the business loans secured against that property. The eviction notice was generated 10 minutes ago. You took our home? Elena, you're leaving us with nothing? I didn't take anything from you, Dad. You gambled everything on a thief, and you threw away the only person who actually built something. I'm just collecting the debt. We are your parents. You can't do this to us. You told me last night you didn't harbor thieves and liars. I'm just following your rules. Marcus, escort these strangers out of my building. 10 minutes later, I stood out on the private glass balcony of my penthouse command center, looking down at the sprawling, glittering lights of Silicon Valley. Below me, the sirens of the police cruisers carrying my sister away were just tiny, flashing blue specks in the dark. I looked at my hands. They weren't shaking. My family thought they could bury me in the dark, damp corners of their basement and steal my light. They didn't realize that some things are meant to grow in the dark. They thought they had broken me. Instead, they just forced me to build an empire. They wanted me out of their family. And today, I finally got my wish.